in a dark, creepy forest where tall trees block most of the sunlight, except for a few rays sneaking through. Suddenly, a muddy hand grabs a tree trunk. A teenager in a yellow jacket appears injured, running as fast to the side of the road. But something makes him freeze. Meanwhile, the teenagers are joking on the bus while waiting for Joe to return. Suddenly, Joe comes back, followed by a weary-looking man with a gun, and the teenagers all share a frightened and confused expression. When Carl was having lunch with his dad, Chris. While eating, Carl excitedly shared a story about how he saved a girl from school bullies. His dad listened with a skeptical but patient expression, humoring Carl's increasingly exaggerated tale. As Carl dramatically described his heroic feats, he accidentally spilled ketchup on his dad's tablet. While Chris wiped the screen clean, a news article briefly became visible, featuring the photo of a convicted criminal. Curious, Carl asked about it, and Chris explained that the man was a serial killer who had recently escaped from prison. Chris mentioned that the killer was known for eating tongues and had a disturbing obsession with teenagers. Chris teased Carl, joking that if he could handle the school bullies, he'd surely have no problem dealing with this lunatic. Carl laughed so they can't call for help. Most is over his phone. Pedro mocks the kids, calling them zombies, and tells them to enjoy the ride. The bus keeps moving, now heading toward an abandoned military zone. Nolan and Bessie, seated ahead of Carl, whisper to him urgently. It's Bessie who responds with a silent shake of her head, her refusal filled with dread and denial. Pedro overhears and glances back. Nolan and Bessie quickly sit up straight. Pointing the gun at Nolan, Pedro asks for his name. The teenager hesitates, before reluctantly answering. Pedro remarks that Nolan's name sounds like it belongs in a comic book, then casually mentions that he used to enjoy comics as a kid, pleading desperately not to be harmed. Ignoring her cries, Pedro presses the gun to her temple and orders Joe to fix the engine, threatening Queenie to get off the bus and repair the vehicle. He sternly warns Joe against attempting anything foolish, extending the same warning to the teenager Queenie off the bus after Joe. The two make their way to the side of the vehicle. Carl starts to panic, telling his friends that Pedro is definitely going to kill them. Bessie suggests that they need it and says it would be too risky to try disarming him now. Reggie agrees with Carl. Meanwhile, Joe is still trying to figure out what's wrong with the bus. After checking, he decides that it's an engine problem, something he can't fix. Suddenly, the lights go out, and the entire tunnel is dark, with only the bus lights glowing. Pedro hesitates, pointing the gun at Joe as uncertainty flickers across his face. The atmosphere inside the bus grows tense, with everyone frozen in fear following the sudden power outage. As they glance nervously around in the dim light, a peculiar sound emerges from the darkness ahead, breath trembling as she retrieves the key from his pocket. Overcome with grief, she cries, but is distracted by another sound from deeper in the darkness. Grabbing the flashlight, she turns it on, but is startled by movement, prompting her to flee back to the bus. Pedro snatches the key and orders Reggie to start the engine, while Nolan asks about Joe. And with a sad shake of her head, she tells him that Joe is no longer alive. When Reggie tries, but fails to get the bus running, Pedro loses patience, threatening to shoot the teens, starting with Queenie, whom he cruelly mocks. Furious, Reggie stands up and warns Pedro to stop the insults against the bus, startling everyone. Pedro uses the distraction to reclaim the gun, but instead points the gun to the bus roof dot. As the teenagers start to whimper and grow afraid, Pedro jumps out of the bus, shouting for the creature to come out. Pedro sees the monster. He freezes in shock and smiles weakly. A loud crash from gunshots echo through the air. The girls scream in fear while the boys curse in panic. Chaos breaks out, and Reggie makes things worse by turning to Carl and insulting him. No light in his lifeless body in its hand. Its massive claws are dug into Pedro's head, but the teens can't make out the garbled voice. Reggie, seated at the back, suddenly experiences vertigo. Pressing his face against the window in a daze, he collapses into his seat. The crunching sound of the creature's approach grows louder, and the bus begins to shake. The long claws of the monster pry the front door open, sending the teens into a frenzy. They scramble to the back door, and Reggie attempts to force it open. Bess grabs the flashlight and shines it at the creature, buying time because he was framed. Nolan takes the map from the wall and starts leading the group, pointing to the control room. Bessie offers to go with him, and Nolan is pleasantly surprised. Reggie wishes them good luck as the two head off to find the control tower. On the way, they have a good conversation. Nolan uses the moment to compliment Bessie on her drawings. He also shares a bit about his mom, who used to paint. He tells her that his favorite painting is one of a blue sea by the ocean. Realizing they need to find the control tower to activate the lights, Nolan takes charge, with Bess offering to accompany him. Meanwhile, back in the safe room, Carl makes drum noises and gestures as he lists all the food he wants to eat. Between the beats, Reggie tells him to be quiet, but Carl doesn't hear him, and they end up having a silly argument. Queenie interrupts them, saying she needs to use the bath. As Nolan and Bess explore, they come across a giant spotlight, and Bessie comments toward an inner cave where a dead body lies. Reggie and Queenie walk a little further, but before she picks a spot to go to the bathroom, Queenie tells Reggie to turn around and give her some privacy. As she crouches down, Reggie, trying to light, Bessie calls out to her friend with good news. It long enough for Carl to get Queenie to safety. The creature in the control room, Nolan struggles to flip the switch, so Bessie steps in to help him. Mia is in danger, trapped under the creature. Reggie blames himself for leaving her alone and insists they need to leave. But Bess explains they can't. Nolan recounts how Julius, as a child, lost his sister to the creature he called the Night Nomad. In a flashback, we see young Julius, wearing a yellow hoodie, walking through a forest with his sister, pretending there's something terrifying. Julius realizes too late, as a blood-curdling scream echoes from the tunnel. Panicking, he takes a few steps back, his eyes glued to the darkness. Another scream, this time from the creature, sends him running. Exhausted, he collapses to his stop the flesh-eating monster. As he works, he looks at a photo of his sister, finding more inspiration for his project. Back in the present, the safe place, and begin putting their plan into action by using their bloodied clothes to lure the creature into the safe room. At first, the plan appears to be working, until Bessie struggles to flip the switch on her own. Things quickly spiral out of control as the lights don't work, and Reggie's button does nothing when he presses it. Nolan almost gets caught by the Night Nomad, but Bessie distracts it at them, but unable to leave the darkness of the tunnel. In the distance, the boys run toward them with torches lit, trapping the creature. They reach the Night Nomad, explaining the answer to the riddle Joe made earlier on the bus: courage. He reflects